I think it must be an internet issue. I don't know why that is. I'm on Zoom meetings and the internet all the time, but today it's just not. Sorry about that.
No, that happened. I'm the king of that it seems like it's this meeting too, because I seem to be down. I'm doing something different in my office this time. Last time I had to switch rooms. This time I brought the county with the little hotspot, and I got it on my window here, so maybe that'll make a difference.
Yeah, that's what I have too. I have my little jetpack right here.
We'll see if that
Seems
works.
like everybody's audio is real.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I have 10 o'clock. So let's call the Finance Administration Committee meeting to order. I will start first. I am Jim Horton, County Commissioner, District 4. I'm currently in my office, downtown Mount Pleasant, Isabella County.
Tobin Hope, County Commissioner for District 7, and I am attending remotely from my home in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Okay. Hearing that, we'll all call to the public. I see Commissioner Jelazinski. If he's there, he's welcome to say something. If not, he's welcome to do whatever. So,
well, the only thing I would say this morning is I see that on the agenda you have the Steve Colzer for Inspector number 3. I just think he'd be a very good hire for the county. I worked with Steve when I was on the Cultural and Recreation Commission dealing with fire suppression systems over at Morey Courts. It was a very divisive kind of issue getting that after the facility operated for so many years without it. But Steve was a real partner in getting it done in a way that financially able for the CRC to move ahead with that, and kind of did mend some fences internally between the people that thought it was needed and the people that didn't think it was needed. So I just wanted to voice my opinion on Mr. Colzer.
okay. Thank you. Nicole, do we have any more members of the public out there?
There are no other members of the public at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We will move on to item number 4. Consider accepting and placing on file the November 12th, 2020 routine personnel items as presented. Let's see, all step increases unless a separation of employment. We probably don't want to go into that during this meeting. So, Margaret, is that a correct statement on that?
Yes, it's kind of a combination, retirement, left, all sorts of situations. I tried to find terminology and I decided that the separation was probably just the right temper. It has no negative content.
Okay. All right. That's good to hear. I have nothing on this. Tobin, what about you?
I have nothing else. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we accept and place on file the November 12th, 2020 routine personnel items as presented.
And I will support that. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. It goes forward. Okay, next up. Commissioner Jelazinski brought this up already. Next up is the hiring of Steve Kreutzer. I see Mr. Nieport there. Tim, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, and good morning to everybody. This is a request basically to start an employee at a higher step in his classification or in his pay grade than the bottom start higher position. Basically, we have Bob Tillman, our building official for about 10 years, retiring on December 4th. We've been through a interview process and have selected Steve Kreutzer as a great candidate for the position. Steve has a high level of experience, professionalism, and current working relationship with our office. We are asking to start Steve at the step 2 position of the pay grade 13 rather than the step higher. And as you're aware, under the personnel policy, the board is vested with approving a step higher at a higher pay than the step higher position. And there's some qualifications in the personnel manual that say, unless the applicant has education or experience directly applicable. I do believe that Steve is, he clearly meets our and exceeds our minimum qualifications. Minimum qualifications for the position is basically holding a builder's license. If you hold a builder's license, you can go ahead and get your inspector's license with the state of Michigan under provisional. We have hired inspectors before who've never inspected. The state of Michigan just kind of gets them through the process, and the state construction board does their approval on a quarterly basis, and they get their education moving forward, and they get hired with us as not having any inspection experience. That's typical. I think I've hired most of my employees in that fashion. However, Steve has been an inspector. He was most recently an inspector with Union Township through a contract. I believe his employer was McKenna and Associates. Steve had worked for Union Township as the building official, building inspector, same position we're hiring here. He had direct, intimate relationship with our inspectors because we do the trades for the township. Our electrical, plumbing, and mechanical inspector. They work. They know Steve. They're on speed dial with one another. They meet weekly. They've done that for years as he's been the inspector there in Union Township. So at this time, I basically I believe Steve has met the qualifications of the ordinance to request a higher pay starting wage for him. At this time, that's what I would be seeking.
Mr. Chairman, may?
Yeah, certainly, Mark. Certainly.
Our
Administrator
policies,
McAvoy.
yes, our policies also require that, yes, the Board of Commissioners is the final approval, but with the administrator controller's support, I would like to strongly put my support behind Mr. Nieport's recommendation. These positions are not easy to fill at any particular time with anyone. As Tim alluded to, sometimes we've hired people, or other jurisdictions have people who've never inspected before. And so the advantage here, as Mr. Nieport stated, is that this person is highly qualified, has worked in our own community, and is well respected, well appreciated, and comes to us with a wealth of experience and background. So I strongly support Mr. Nieport's request to have him start at a higher, start at the pay grade. So let's remember, he's not changing pay grades from what the classification compensation program is. He would be at the pay grade. He would just start higher on the scale and not at the start wage.
Okay. Tobin, you have anything on this?
Well, I trust Mr. Nieport and Administrator McAvoy. I remember hearing over the years that these are tough positions to fill. It's hard to find people for these. And certainly right now with COVID and everything making it difficult, it would be difficult to work right with somebody that needed that. To have somebody with this experience that could just start and take right off, I can see that would be a huge benefit right now. And also I appreciate Commissioner Jałoszynski's comments in support of this. So.
Okay. I agree with everything said, Tobin. I agree with everything you said, Jerry, Margaret, and also Tim. A couple things I just want to mention real quick. Again, look at it. You're hiring somebody that was a contracted employee at Union Township. So that right there speaks that, you know, the position itself is not an easy one to fill because they had to contract out. We always say we want to try to get the best and the brightest for Isabella County. And in doing this, I think that's a good thing, not looking to try to get this as a contract position or anything. I guess my only question that's outstanding, and I don't see it on the memo, and I'm just looking through it. I did not print it off. Even though, thank you for the paper, Margaret, by the way.
You're welcome. I'm so sorry I didn't think about that earlier. I apologize.
You know what though? You know how I am on money. You know what though? I don't know what the other commissioners are doing, but one thing we may want to look at in the future, if we continue to do this, not only the paper, but if we can get you maybe the list of the cartridges that we use, or
yes.
Because that's what's really costly. The paper
Yes.
is not a lot, but the cartridges do. I try to minimize, and I think most of the commissioners do. I see Tobin always looking over to his side. I was going to say Tobin looks to his left, but I can't do that and be funny. You know what I'm saying on that. So, but I am looking to my left here. don't let it ever be said I don't look to my left, because I'm looking to my left here. I don't see anywhere on the screen or on the memo that lists what we're starting them at for a salary. Now, it'll probably be public knowledge. So what like a new hire start versus what we're going to start him at, his start rate on 13.
It's
What-
roughly, Jim, without looking for the exact number, it's roughly about almost 49,000 at the start hire position and right around 52 at the step 2 position. So $3,000, a bump from where he would start as a regular new employee.
Yeah, so roughly about $1.50 an hour to get someone who's highly qualified with no training. I think that, to me, is, I always like to use the term common sense, but I think that's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned what to do here. So I would like to then make the motion that we consider approving the hiring of Mr. Stephen Kreutzer. I said that right, as the Inspector 3, building official, building inspector / plan reviewer. So he's got 3 titles at the step 2 of the pay grade 13 per the requirements of the non-represented personnel policy.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Jerry, again, thank you for your opinion on that too, Jerry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. It will go forward. Next up, consider approving the ambulance service agreement between Isabella County and Mobile Medical Response, Inc., effective January 1, 2021 until December 31st, 2025, and authorize the board chair to sign the same. All right, I don't see anybody from them. Margaret, you want to take
Yes.
this one?
Yes. At the I don't know what term I would use, direction, I guess, at the direction of the Board of Commissioners, we did a release, a request for proposal for ambulance services in the county. The staff report talks about, when it was released. It was released on September 30th. We had a pre-proposal meeting, which is a very common thing that we do with all of our requests for proposals under our new procedures the last couple of years, via Zoom on October 13th. There were 3 companies who attended that meeting. The proposals were due at my office by 1 p.m. on November 4th, and we received 1 proposal. The great thing is we received 1 proposal from a very highly qualified company who has done a great job in our community. And just in case you might be interested in the proposal, I just have my little bound copy here. And I will tell you, it is extremely detailed, tabulated, a beautiful proposal. It's a non-financial agreement. The county does not pay for this service. The major consideration for Mobile Medical Response, as I will tell you, is that they've been our provider for over 2 decades. They do a great job. They are so involved in our community. I can obviously say I rarely go to any, I don't go to sporting events that they're not at. I don't go to parades they're not at. I don't go to large community functions they are not at. They are an active member of our emergency operations system. And during the flood, they put a person in that room with us who hung there with Mark and I hours after other people had left. And as Tim Nieport will tell you, they were there a long time too. Tim was there 12, 15 hours a day. They were the ones who submitted and uploaded all of our information to the Michigan Emergency Management System in Lansing while this was going on, which is what ends up in the long run helping us get funding to recover from those types of events. So I can tell you it is with a great deal of confidence that I recommend that we enter into the agreement with MMR, and they will continue to do the great job they always do. Okay,
Tobin?
I have heard nothing negative about MR, so I have no reservations about this.
Yeah, I echo that. Just a couple quick things on this. In no particular order, I scribbled some things down. Margaret, you said you had a binder, the proposal binder. I get one of the questions I had, and this is just from being in the healthcare world myself with insurances and everything. Did they list anywhere what they charge? I know in their contract they use the term reasonable and customary or some language to that effect. do they list what their normal charge rates are for a run to what they were going to charge a member of the community? What the normal,
Yeah.
like the,
Not that I recall. I will say this, that, you know, they have services all over the state. So the
Right.
board is understanding, they are all over the state. And they have service agreements with insurance carriers
Mhm.
all over the state. So when you are in their ambulance or they're taking you someplace and taking you to the hospital or whatever, they're charging your insurance. I know there was some discussion about the insurance coverage with the tribe. The tribe had changed insurance companies a few years back, and as a result, they were not a preferred, I don't know what the correct term is, Mr. Horton, I don't want to misspeak. That has been resolved.
I saw that, yeah.
Was working on being resolved a long time before this discussion ever came to the Board of Commissioners. And I was really happy to see that that was able to be resolved. So I will tell you, you know, what they charge each individual person, I don't know. They're charging the insurance companies or the state of Michigan if you're on Medicaid.
Yeah,
I will tell you
that's,
personally, I will tell you personally, unfortunately, I had an occasion to be a rider in their ambulance and a patient about a year and a half ago. And two things I want to just tell you, because anecdotal, I think you'll be interested. A, they took great care of me. I guess there's three things. They took great care of me. B, they asked me where I wanted to go for treatment. And C, they never made any comment to me about a billing or anything. Not a word, not a question. And they obviously billed our insurance. Eventually, after the fact, they got the insurance company information, but that's what I know about that.
okay. Now, the reason I was asking that question is just, if they don't have it in their book, I'm just curious as a member, again, with insurance is one thing, but a lot of people don't have, maybe they don't have insurance, just what they're expecting or what is a normal rate if someone gets, let's say they have to answer a call to someone's home that doesn't have any insurance, what the rate would be. Again, I know it's going to vary on distance, but I'm just kind of concerned the ballpark range. Again, nothing to do with this contract. I'm fully in support and I'll get there in a minute. I just want like a housekeeping thing. I'd like to know what is a normal, usual and customary rate for them.
I will look through the binder again, and if I can see it in the binder, I'll send it to you. If not, I will contact Mr. McDonald and ask for that information.
Thank you. Again, being very complimentary to MMR, I serve on the Medical Control Authority Board, and I can tell you that they're very, very, and I use two varies in that, professional in how they approach their job. They're very serious. They ask good questions. They take their job very serious. I'm a Mr. I think it's Brett Hansen. He is extremely passionate. He's a very, seems like a very, very passionate person in what he does. And Mr. McDonald, of course, is very professional. I believe he sent a letter. I know I received one, Tobin. I don't know if you got the same one, talking about the tribal issue with the tribe. Again, that's what we need in our community. I think that's one of the big sticking points for me when we originally looked into that, is we had a couple entities state that, hey, their members weren't being charged or their insurance weren't being. I can state from someone who handles a lot of insurance plans is that sometimes you don't take every insurance because your reimbursement is below cost. And you're not, you know, unless you're a pharmacy, you don't tend to do things below cost. It's kind of a side note because we're dealing with something here, but no, so that being said, again, I have nothing. We obviously have a long-term relationship and I'm looking forward to at least another 5 years, if not longer. I think they handle themselves very professionally in this result of negotiations or as far as getting RFP responses. Nothing but the utmost professionalism. I know how it feels sometimes to be having a long-standing contract with an entity, and that entity wants to go out and see, hey, let's see what else is out there. Let's just check it. When you're going, well, wait a minute, we've spent a lot of years cultivating this. We've got a great working history, but let them know that I am cognizant of that. And I do appreciate their professionalism in that. And I guess the last thing I have, and this is not with MMR, this is in regarding to, I know it's an exclusive rights contract, which means I believe our central dispatch 911 will be referring all ambulance calls to MMR. So that being said, again, I just want to make sure that that is a correct statement, and B, that Isabella County, so in other words, if some other company wants to come into this area and start their own ambulance services, they cannot, and they could be, for lack of a better term, enjoined or temporary injunction or some legal term to prevent that. Is that correct?
It's an exclusive contract. MMR has exclusive contracts again across the state. Most ambulances that are contracted across the state, services, whatever they are, have exclusive contracts. So not only if you call 911 and you need an ambulance, will an ambulance be dispatched to you from MMR? Also, when you call in to 911 with a medical situation, we are automatically referring you to the MMR company, which then is providing all of the pre-ambulance medical information to the caller. So if you were to call in and say, my wife's falling down the stairs and she's unconscious, Central Dispatch will immediately transfer that call to MMR. They will give whoever the caller is all of the first aid advice, whatever you need until the ambulance gets there. And that's a service that I don't know that it's unique to MMR. It was unique to me when I came to Isabella County. I was not familiar with that level of service. And again, no charge to the county. And I had an occasion to call an ambulance a couple years ago for an unconscious person in the parking lot. It was wonderful information that I was given how to deal with that until the ambulance got there. So they will have an exclusive contract.
That was my concern, because let's say, for instance, we'll call it the Acme Ambulance Company, wants to come into town and not having use of the 911 or not having a central dispatch number to call, but they sit there and say, hey, if you need an ambulance service, call 1-800-AMBULANCE or something like that. What is the liability? Again, maybe this is a question for legal counsel, but what is Isabella County's role or MMR's role? I'm sure MMR would do something, but is Isabella County responsible for saying, no, don't use this ambulance service? What is the legality in someone trying to start up a business like that?
Well, this is an exclusive contract. So Central Dispatch will not be dispatching other ambulances who come into the community because we have an exclusive contract.
Okay, I wasn't talking about.
I can't imagine that somebody else is going to come into the community without having a contract to do so. I can't foresee that happening. I don't know of any place else that has happened.
Okay, thank you for answering that. That's
Absolutely.
That's good to hear that. That's very good news. Again, that was one of my biggest concerns. I also several years ago had a situation where I also had to use MMR in between county meetings necessarily, and very professional, handled it very well. Was able to get someone my size up without any issues, up and out of a car and onto a gurney without dropping me, which thank goodness. But they asked where I wanted to go. They didn't try to steer me anywhere. Had no issues with whatever, with worrying about if I couldn't pay, they weren't going to take me. They're going to leave me in the parking lot type situation. So and handled themselves very, very professionally. And I can't emphasize that word enough with this group. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a very good working relationship. They're in, and Margaret, you're right. They're everywhere. They're in the community. They're there. You see them, just going into the Picker Street Citgo. You see people and say hello. Yes. And they're very friendly and everything. So it's a good thing. It's a very positive thing. So this I feel good about. So Tobin, you want to do this one or want me to?
Yeah, I'll do this one. I'll make a motion that we consider approving the ambulance service agreement between Isabella County and Mobile Medical Response Incorporated, effective January 1st, 2021 until December 31st, 2025, and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
I'll support that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. It will go forward. Next up, the medical examiner services agreement. Margaret, I'll let you take this one also.
Thank you, sir. We have had a contract with Sparrow Hospital for medical examiner services since January 1st of 2014. I have been very satisfied with them. Again, they are a professional organization. They are certified on a national level. They really do hire only the best and the brightest there. They do a lot more than autopsies. And I think when you look at medical examiner services, maybe you're thinking, well, how many autopsies can we have a year? They also provide, medical examiner investigators, which work for Sparrow. They do not work for the county. However, I negotiated in the first contract we had with them, and we continue to negotiate it, that the county will have the ability to have first rights of refusal for who they want to hire in those positions, because those positions show up at scenes in our community. The three people who kind of decide, yes, that's an acceptable candidate or not, are myself, the sheriff, and the prosecutor, for obvious reasons. A, I'm the manager of the contract. B, the sheriff is on scene, his department's on scene a lot, and he also has been involved in all of these things his entire career. And the prosecutor will end up with, if there's a crime committed. So to give you an idea, medical examiner calls when they call into 911, whether it's a hospital with I don't want to use the word suspicious, I would just say a hospital with a death that they want looked at, we'll say it that way, or a crime scene or other places, those calls again go into central dispatch and they're dispatched out to the medical examiner investigators. I get a text every time that happens, because I want some idea of how often that is happening. Those texts often come, late at night, the middle of the night or whatever. We had through central dispatch between January of 2019 and December 31st, January 1st of 2019 and December 31st of 2019, so a year, we had 108 in our county calls for a medical examiner to come and investigate a scene. So the medical examiner investigators go, and they are the ones who make the recommendation to the medical examiner of whether that should be a case for the medical examiner or not. It's a very important thing that happens. It may be a child who dies. It may be a car accident. It may be an overdose. It may be a person who's brought into the hospital who is deceased or who dies, and somebody at the hospital has a question. It doesn't mean that every one of those 108 calls ends up in someone having an autopsy, but that is the first start. They're investigating the scene, whatever the scene is. This year, from January 1st until November 22nd, which was Sunday, I believe, we had 137 of those calls for medical examiner investigators to go. This is this profession in the medical field is not any different. If you were looking for a neurosurgeon, or you were looking for a cardiologist, or you were looking for a pediatrician, or whatever the specialty was for whatever the situation you had, you wanted to have somebody who that was their specialty, right? You don't want to have brain surgery by somebody who is a orthopedic surgeon, unless you're in an emergency and they're going to take care of you anyways. But you always want to go with somebody who is highly qualified. Those are the parts of this contract that I think are not always evident to people looking at it when you go, well, geez, Margaret, couldn't we hire a local doctor for that? No, you could not hire a local doctor for that. Did we have a local doctor at one time? Yes, we did. When I got here, you had a local doctor. He retired. I've heard complaints that, well, those autopsies aren't done in Isabella County. Well, that is correct. The autopsies are done at Sparrow Forensic. But the other thing you might not know is those autopsies before were not done in Isabella County. They were done in Grand Rapids. And there wasn't the investigation that's currently happening. So our contract with Sparrow also puts them at the table with things that Commissioner Horton has talked about, the Medical Control Board. I'm not sure they're there every time, Commissioner. You could tell us that or not, but I know that they are there some. They work hand in glove with law enforcement. They work hand in glove. If there is something that happens and something goes to court, those medical examiner physicians are going to be testifying at court for us. So it is a very highly specialized field. They are renowned. I am shocked. I will tell you, the last time we negotiated this contract, they were looking at a very big increase of about 30%. And I told them there was no way. there was no way the Board of Commissioners would ever be able to do that. This was however many years ago, 3 years ago, I guess. And I said, no, that's not going to work. And they came back and they ended up giving us that contract at pretty much the same rate, except a small percentage increase every year, which was a great discussion for us and a great opportunity for us. I was very surprised when they contacted me and said, Margaret, we just want to do an amendment to the contract, keep everything the way it is, and look at, the exact same provisions we currently have. So I am thrilled with that. I think that is astounding that they're going to keep the same financial provisions. And yes, we'll 4% a year at the top. But still in all, when you look at the total cost of what we're paying for this compared to the services that we're getting, I think it's a very good situation for the county to continue this agreement. And I very strongly recommend that the Board of Commissioners do so.
Tobin?
This makes perfect sense to me. With 137 cases investigated to date, that sounds like way beyond what we could have our own medical examiner, our own doctor investigate on that level. It doesn't seem like that would be possible. And Sparrow does a terrific job, so this makes sense to me.
Yeah, Margaret, do you happen to have I'm sorry, Tobin, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's hard to.
No, I'm done. Go
All
ahead.
right, sorry. Margaret, do you happen to, you had 137. What was the amount of autopsies performed? You have a
I'm sorry, Mr. Horton. That's a different report. The reports that I have, the medical examiner investigations, I could get easily from Central Dispatch yesterday because those are dispatched by our department. The Sparrow sends out an annual report every year. I don't have access to it here in my dining room from last year, so I apologize. I don't have that number. I am happy to call someone at get that number before Tuesday's meeting. And as soon as I get it, I will send it out to you and Mr.
That's fine. That's fine. That's certainly, I agree. This is, if you looked at, I know when you've looked at this in the past, I know when we had talked about this last contract several years ago. I think one of the counties around Lansing, I don't know if maybe it was Hingham that stands out in my head, but I could be wrong. They're having a big issue with the medical examiner. Maybe not this one, but another one. It was costing them exorbitant amounts of money. No other counties, this has been a headache for them as far as what to do, what to choose, not happy. I mean, this seems like something that's a good working relationship that we have, and it just makes total sense to me. So I have nothing but definitely approve. And I'll make the motion then to, consider approving the First Amendment to Medical Examiners Services Agreement between Isabella County and Edward W. Sparrow Hospital Association effective January 1, 2021 until December 31st, 2023, and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
I'll support that.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Next up, invoice list discussion. Tobin, I'll let you go first. I don't think I have anything, but I'll let you go first.
The only thing I had is a comment on the first list, November 13th, I guess it is. There's a state reverse denial on PRE exemption, and I hadn't seen that before. I just wonder if that happens a lot. Usually smaller amounts, so it wasn't as noticeable, or if I don't know how frequently that happens.
That's a treasurer, the treasurer's office. I will ask him to provide you some information on that. I would prefer not to speak on his behalf.
Sure.
I don't feel I'm the right person to ask that question, but I'll get you the information.
Great. Yeah, I'd appreciate that. I was just curious because I hadn't noticed that on an invoice list before.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's all I had.
On that one, I have nothing. Okay, sorry. On that one, I have nothing. Let's go to the other one. I don't think there was anything that stood out to me either on them. Waiting for it to kick on here. Now, just some of the contractual issues that we talked about. So, no, I got nothing on either one of them. So nothing that stood out. So Margaret, if you could get that answer, that would be just
Sure will.
interesting. So,
Absolutely, I sure will.
okay. Let's see. Next up is call to the public. Jerry, got anything?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nicole, we have anybody on the line?
There is no other public at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Tobin, what you got?
I have nothing else, sir.
All right. Well, as I anxiously await Hurricane Grace coming to town, I have nothing here either. So we will adjourn the meeting at 10:35. You guys have a nice evening. Happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe.
Hey, you too.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Thanks,
everyone. Stay
Steve.
safe.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
You guys.
Bye-bye.
Trying to use the wrong mouse.